Hi, I'm Joe Navarro and welcome back to my channel. There are 5 things that I look for that communicate to me that someone is really struggling. In a way, they are reserved behaviors. These are behaviors that we don't see all day long. They're reserved for when something immediately goes wrong. There's something bad, there's a high level of anxiety, or just something goes wrong. And I want to familiarize you with these to look for it. So when you see it, you, at a minimum, you should pay attention or ask if they need assistance or something along those lines. And the first one is the freeze response. We evolved to immediately freeze when we're shocked by information or we see something that is a threat. We evolved to freeze the minute we felt threatened because to run initiated the chase, trip, bite sequence of large felines. And so it is in our DNA. We know this because we see it around the world. It's universal that when something is threatening, we tend to just freeze in place. And I have, through my career, been in many situations where individuals have received shocking news. Either they got a phone call or somebody whispered in their ear, and all of a sudden they just freeze. And I've been there at times when they looked like they were almost having a seizure. And they're so frozen in place, and it's just this moment, it's an emotive moment where the brain is assessing what is this that has just confronted me. And people can look like they're very distant, or they may not even respond to questions or any kind of intervention. The second response is a rocking sort of behavior. Oftentimes, something can be so shocking, something can be so stressful, and I've seen this in both war zones and in refugee camps, where something so traumatic has taken place that the person withdraws. And they auto-stimulate by just rocking. They're not making eye contact, they're not socializing, they're not interested in talking to anyone. They're just rocking in place. They're sort of auto-stimulating themselves. And if you understand the brain, and especially the ears, the rocking motion, which we see sometimes when we hold the baby, what happens is that repetitive motion in the ear, the liquid that is inside there is stimulated, and it sort of lulls us in the same way that some people fall asleep on a boat because of the gentle rocking motion, or on a moving object. The brain is occupied both emotionally and perhaps cognitively, but we know that they're in a deep state of dealing with some tremendous emotional issue. And this often is notification that this individual requires some intervention, or they just need to be left alone long enough so that they can process this horrendous information. And as a reminder, always remember that repetitive behaviors, such as rocking motions, playing with objects like a ring or bouncing a leg, repetitive behaviors are self-soothing behaviors, or as I refer to them in my books, as pacifiers. The third behavior that I want to talk about is when the person just totally withdraws and they go into a sort of embryonic position where they literally fold forward and they bring their legs up and they're maybe clutching their knees close to the body. They are literally taking themselves back to when they were in the womb. This is a tremendous example of self-comforting behaviors that the brain immediately needs. The knees being up, the unfolding of the legs with the arms and holding themselves very tight is telling us that this person is collapsing. Emotionally, they can barely deal with what may be going on. I've seen this with people who are having panic attacks or anxiety, but I've also seen it where there's been great grief at the loss of a loved one. What that tells us is, and it's shouting, is I am at the lowest point where I can be, and this is a person that we should keep an eye on. This is a person that may need our assistance. It will be a long time before they may even say anything, but it should alert us immediately, if we're empathetic at all, that this individual despairs. The next behavior that I want to talk about is you'll often see when we're under severe stress, we will interlace those fingers, keeping them very straight. We move them very slowly, and this is key, slow movement, but we apply great pressure. This is also a reserved behavior. And you often see it with someone who, I've seen it with leaders of organizations who have to come in and say, look, we're going to have layoffs. We're going to have redundancies. And I hate to say it, but management has asked us to reduce by 20%, and you see their fingers interlaced like this, a lot of pressure, indicative of the high amount of stress that they're under. So when you look at the hands, obviously we want to look at all of the body, but keep in mind that this needs to be differentiated from this. This is a steeple indicative of high confidence. The interlacing of the fingers like this, slow movement, high pressure, what we call the teepee hands in the dictionary of body language, is indicative of high stress. And lastly, one of the things that you may have noticed is how often when people are under stress, when they have to confess something that they've done wrong, you often see what is called lip withdrawal. And it's not just lip compression. Many of us will compress our lips when we hear something that we don't like, or we're struggling with something that someone said, or we're contemplating. Lip withdrawal is a literal sucking in of the lips, and this is reserved. This is a reserved behavior that we usually only see when there's an extreme amount of stress, and usually the person is in a public setting. So there you have it, some behaviors that you should all be aware of, that you should keep an eye out for. You won't see them all the time, hopefully, but when you do, now you'll have the wisdom to recognize them and be able to act on them. So I hope you'll like this episode below. Please subscribe, share this with friends, and thank you for sharing your time with me.